May 12, 1940, Flight Lieutenant James Leithart snaps his throttle forward, then further. The wire breaks. His Spitfire explodes upward like it's been kicked by God himself. The Messerschmitt ahead, confident, cocky, already turning for home, doesn't see it coming. Leithart's closing at a rate that shouldn't be possible. His hands shake on the stick, not from fear, from disbelief. 3 weeks ago, over Dunkirk, that same Bf-109 would have outrun him, would have climbed away, laughing in German over the radio. But something has changed, something invisible, something the Germans don't know about yet. He fires. The 109 disintegrates. Across the channel, in a concrete bunker in Calais, Luftwaffe intelligence officers are about to receive a report that will confuse them for months. British fighters, the same Spitfires and Hurricanes they dominated over France, are suddenly 30 miles per hour faster. They climb like rockets. They're everywhere at once. One German pilot will land and tell his commander they must have new aircraft. They don't. They have new fuel. But here's what makes this story remarkable. Nobody planned it as a weapon. The miracle chemical that saved Britain from invasion wasn't developed by the military. It was perfected by a French race car enthusiast in a Pennsylvania refinery, a man who'd never fired a gun in anger. Eugene Houdry didn't set out to win a war. He just wanted to make better gasoline. By June 1940, as Hitler masses his forces for the largest air assault in history, 300,000 tons of this golden liquid sit in British storage tanks. The RAF has exactly 754 operational fighters. The Germans have 2,600 aircraft. The odds are impossible. But the British have something else, a 13-point advantage in octane that will change everything. This is the story of the secret fuel that won the Battle of Britain.
January 1937, Air Ministry Conference Room, London. F.R. Banks, internal combustion expert, stands before skeptical officers. Gentlemen, we're flying obsolete fuel into a modern war. His recommendation, switch the entire RAF to 100-octane fuel, immediate, universal, non-negotiable. The response? Rejected. The reasoning seems sound. Only America can produce 100-octane in quantity. What happens when war comes and supply lines collapse? Better to stick with reliable 87-octane, safe, proven, abundantly available from British refineries. Meanwhile, across Europe, another story unfolds. In Pennsylvania, Eugene Jules Houdry, born in France, now an American citizen, is revolutionizing petroleum chemistry. Not for warfare, for capitalism. His catalytic cracking process can break large petroleum molecules into smaller, more volatile ones. The result? Twice the gasoline from the same barrel of crude. But not just more gasoline, better gasoline. Fuel with octane ratings approaching 100. By 1938, Air Ministry personnel changes bring new thinking. Experiments begin with imported American fuel. An entire tanker arrives. Results are extraordinary. 25 to 34 miles per hour speed increase, 500 to 1,000 feet per minute better climb rate, the difference between matching the Messerschmitt and losing to it. June 1939, Britain starts stockpiling, 150,000 tons purchased. Then the race begins, 300,000 tons by July 1940. But there's a catch, the engines need modification. Higher compression means higher temperatures. Stock Merlin engines running 87 octane operate at plus 6.25 pounds boost pressure. For 100 octane, they need plus 12 pounds. March 1940, conversion begins. Engineers install new cylinder heads, redesign supercharger boost controls. Each Merlin requires hours of specialist work, and the clock is ticking. In Germany, Luftwaffe intelligence assumes Britain will fight with 87 octane. Their tactical doctrine, their energy management calculations, their combat maneuvers, all based on performance data from the Battle of France. They're about to discover they've prepared for the wrong war.
Marcus Hook, Pennsylvania, 1937. The first commercial catalytic cracker hums to life at Sun Oil's refinery. Eugene Houdry watches temperatures climb, pressure gauges vibrate. Inside the reactor, crude petroleum meets silica alumina catalyst at precisely 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Magic happens. Long hydrocarbon chains, useless for aviation, crack into shorter branched molecules, isooctane, the gold standard, the molecule that defines octane 100. Before this, thermal cracking used brutal heat and pressure, expensive, inefficient, produced fuel that knocked and pinged in high compression engines. But Houdry's catalyst changes everything. It rearranges molecular structures, creates branched hydrocarbons and aromatics that resist premature ignition under pressure. The difference? Life and death at 20,000 feet. In Britain, Rolls-Royce engineers face a parallel problem. The Merlin engine, 27 liters of V12 Fury, wants to tear itself apart. Higher octane means higher boost. Higher boost means higher cylinder pressures. Push too hard and pistons melt, connecting rods snap, entire engines seize mid-combat. The solution requires surgical precision. New shrouded cylinder heads dissipate heat. Modified superchargers force more air into combustion chambers. Valve seats machined to tighter tolerances. But the real innovation? A brass restrictor, later nicknamed Miss Schilling's orifice, prevents fuel starvation during negative G maneuvers. Because pilots discovered something terrifying. When a Spitfire noses over hard following a diving Messerschmitt, the Merlin chokes. Fuel sloshes away from the carburetor intake. The engine dies. For 5 crucial seconds, you're a glider. Beatrice Schilling, Royal Aircraft Establishment engineer, designs a simple flow restrictor, precisely calculated, thimble-shaped brass. Install time, 30 minutes. Problem solved. By May 1940, reconnaissance Spitfires begin operational sorties on 100 octane. Pilots report the same thing. The aircraft feels alive, angry, eager. July 31st, 384 Spitfires in 19 squadrons fully converted. The Battle of Britain officially begins July 10th. The Luftwaffe has no idea what's coming.
August 8, 1940. 145 Squadron scrambles from West Hampnet. Flight Lieutenant Peter Parrott climbs his Spitfire toward a formation of Ju-87 Stukas. Altitude, 15,000 feet. The dive bombers are protected by Bf-109Es, experienced pilots, Spanish Civil War veterans. They know their business. Parrott snaps the emergency boost override. The throttle gate breaks. What happens next defies the Germans' entire tactical framework. The Spitfire accelerates upward like it's launched from a catapult. The 109 escorts, positioned to bounce any climbing RAF fighters, suddenly find themselves outpaced, outclimbed, out-everythinged. One German pilot, Oberlieutenant Julius Neumann, radios his wingman. "Impossible! That's the same fighter we shot up over Dunkirk." It is. Across the combat zone, similar scenes unfold. Hurricane pilots discover they can finally dictate engagement terms. The standard emergency procedure, running for cloud cover, praying the Messerschmitt can't follow, becomes obsolete. Now, they turn and fight. Post-combat intelligence reports flood RAF Group headquarters. Pilots describe enemy fighters confused by the sudden performance shift. Luftwaffe formations breaking formation unexpectedly. 109s attempting to extend away from combat, their standard escape tactic, only to discover pursuing Spitfires matching their speed. At Bentley Priory, Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding reads the reports with controlled satisfaction. 3 factors, he'll later say, won the battle: pilot skill, the Merlin engine, and suitable fuel. But here's what the reports don't capture: the psychological impact. German fighter pilots returned to French airfields rattled. They'd owned the sky over Poland, over France, over Norway. Their confidence wasn't just high, it was absolute. Now, that confidence cracks. "We're fighting ghosts," one pilot tells his mechanic. "The same aircraft, different performance." In Berlin, Luftwaffe Command receives contradictory intelligence. Some reports claim new British fighters, others insist modifications to existing airframes. Nobody suspects fuel. Yet.
Karenhall, August 1940. Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring studies loss reports. The numbers don't add up. Luftwaffe intelligence predicted fighter command would collapse within 2 weeks. Superior German aircraft, superior German pilots, superior German tactics, mathematical certainty. Instead, RAF sortie rates are increasing. Göring demands answers. His intelligence chief, Oberst Josef Schmedeck, offers confused analysis. Perhaps new squadrons from northern England, hidden reserves. The British must be lying about aircraft production. They're not. They're using better chemistry. At Rolls-Royce's Derby facility, engineers monitor engine performance data radioed from combat zones. Merlins running plus 12 pounds boost are holding up, barely. Time between overhauls drops from 240 hours to 180, but it's survivable. More importantly, pilots are surviving. The strategic implications ripple outward. Production priorities shift. British tankers crossing the Atlantic carry 100 octane as priority cargo. Convoy routes adjust.
U-boat targeting changes as German naval intelligence notices the pattern. In Washington, U.S. Army Air Corps observers take notes. American air doctrine still assumes 87-octane standard. Seeing British results, that doctrine begins to evolve. By late 1940, U.S. orders for catalytic cracking facilities explode. Houdry plants expand. Standard Oil, Socani Vacuum, Sun Oil, all racing to build capacity. By 1942, 14 Houdry catalytic crackers will aspirate at maximum output. They'll produce 90% of Allied aviation fuel for the war's first 2 years. But here's the cascade effect nobody predicted. German synthetic fuel production can't match it. Their Fischer-Tropsch coal-liquefaction process produces excellent quantity, poor quality. The chemical structure of coal-derived fuel limits octane potential. Even with tetraethyl lead additives, German fuel tops out at 87 octane. Some C2 fuel reaches 95 octane, rare, rationed to elite units only. Meanwhile, every RAF fighter burns American grade 100. The performance cap becomes doctrine. Spitfires engage fighters, Hurricanes engage bombers, because now they can.
September 15th, 1940, 11:30 a.m. Pilot Officer Jeffrey Wellham snaps awake at the scramble bell. His 6th sortie today. No time for fear, no time for thought. Just muscle memory and adrenaline. Red Section, airborne. Bandits, Angels 2-0, Vector 090. Wellham's Spitfire claws for altitude. The Merlin screams at 3,000 RPM, manifold pressure plus 9 pounds. Normal combat power. Not enough. Ahead, sunlight glints off canopies, BF-109Es, diving. Energy advantage. The geometry is wrong. They'll bounce red section before intercept altitude. Wellham's hand finds the throttle gate. Breaks it. The Merlin's note changes, deeper, angrier. Boost pressure surges to plus 12. The supercharger shrieks. Fuel consumption becomes catastrophic, 5 minutes maximum, but 5 minutes is eternity in combat. The Spitfire launches upward. The 109 pilot commits to his dive, standard bounce, textbook, except his target isn't where physics says it should be. Wellham rolls inverted, pulls through. The negative G should kill his engine. It did 3 months ago when the carburetor would flood and die. Not now. Miss Schilling's restrictor works. The Merlin coughs once, catches, roars. Wellham's in the 109's dead 6. 8 Brownings converge at 250 yards, 160 rounds per second. The 109's fuselage rips apart. Coolant spray, white, glycol-based, streams back. The German pilot bails. Elapsed time, 43 seconds. Back at the sector station, Wellham taxis in, checks his fuel, 20 minutes remaining. His hands shake. Not fear, adrenaline crash. The ground crew swarms his aircraft. Fuel bowser connects, oil checked, ammunition replenished. Turnaround time, 12 minutes. The scramble bell rings again. Wellham's mechanic pats the fuselage. "She's thirsty on that boost, sir. Drinks like my old man." "She's thirsty," Wellham agrees, "but she's fast." He climbs back in. Round 7.
Let's talk chemistry. Octane measures anti-knock properties. The higher the rating, the more compression an engine tolerates before fuel ignites prematurely. Premature ignition, knocking, destroys engines, melts pistons, cracks cylinder heads. 87 octane fuel allows roughly 6.5 to 1 compression ratio. 100 octane, 8 to 1 or higher. That compression difference translates directly into power. The Merlin 3, running 87 octane at plus 6.25 pounds boost, produces 1,030 horsepower at 3,000 RPM at 10,000 feet. Same engine, 100 octane at plus 12 pounds boost, 1,310 horsepower at 9,000 feet for 5 minutes. The math is brutal. 27% power increase from fuel alone. But here's what makes 100 octane special: molecular structure. Houdry's catalytic cracking doesn't just break petroleum chains, it rearranges them, creates branched hydrocarbons, isooctane, isobutane, complex aromatics. These molecules resist compression ignition better than straight-chain hydrocarbons. The result? Stable combustion under extreme pressure and temperature. The Merlin supercharger can force more air-fuel mixture into cylinders without catastrophic detonation. Speed increase? 25 miles per hour at sea level, 34 miles per hour at 10,000 feet. Rate of climb? 500 to 1,000 feet per minute improvement depending on altitude and aircraft weight. Compared to German fuel, Luftwaffe standard B4 fuel rated 87 octane. Their upgraded C2 fuel, introduced late 1939, reaches 95 octane, rare, rationed. Some sources indicate limited C3 fuel approached 100 octane, but only elite units received it. Messerschmitt Bf 109E4/N with DB601N engine could use C2. Power increase, 20% over standard DB601A, but engine reliability suffered. Valve life, approximately 40 hours before replacement needed. Meanwhile, Merlin engines on 100 octane maintained 180-hour overhaul intervals. The logistical advantage compounds. British fighters could sustain high-performance operations. German high-octane units couldn't. Production figures, 1.1 million barrels monthly of 100 octane shipped to Britain in the first 6 months of 1940. Hoodry plants producing 90% of catalytically cracked fuel. Germany's Fischer-Tropsch synthetic fuel production, plentiful, but chemically limited to 87 octane maximum with additives. The molecules themselves enforced strategic reality.
Flight Surgeon's Office, RAF Tangmere, September 1940. Pilot Officer Richard Hillary sits for his medical. Third time this week. The doc checks his hands, trembling, his eyes, bloodshot, his weight, down 12 pounds in 3 weeks. Operational fatigue, the doc writes. Hillary laughs, bitter. It's the throttle gate. The doctor doesn't understand. Here's what Hillary can't articulate. Flying plus 12 pounds boost changes you. The aircraft becomes violently responsive, twitchy, every control input amplified. A Spitfire on emergency boost isn't transportation. It's a barely controlled explosion with wings. The psychological toll? Measured in adrenaline crashes, in knowing you have 5 minutes of God mode power, then nothing. In breaking that wire gate, feeling it snap under your palm, and knowing you've just committed to a death match. No escape velocity remains if things go wrong. Sergeant James Lacey, 501 Squadron, writes to his mother, "The new fuel makes the kite an absolute beast, climbs like a homesick angel, but my hands shake for an hour after landing, not from the fighting, from controlling it." Enemy perspective matters too. Luftwaffe after-action reports reveal confusion, frustration, fear. Hauptmann Horst Tietzen, JG-51. The Tommy fighters are faster than intelligence briefed. Our tactical advantages, speed, climb, no longer reliable. Morale suffers. By late September, German fighter pilots show measurable stress. Sortie refusal rates increase. Some units rotate out early. Combat effectiveness declines not from losses, but from psychological attrition. The British face different pressure. Knowing you have technological advantage doesn't erase fear. It amplifies responsibility. Every loss feels more tragic because survival should be easier. But here's the civilian cost nobody discusses. American tanker crews crossing the Atlantic, U-boats targeting fuel shipments, sailors dying to deliver barrels of gasoline. Between June-December 1940, 14 tankers sunk, 247 merchant sailors killed. Their cargo, 100 octane. The secret weapon has a price measured in lives before it ever reaches a fighter.
Late August 1940. Occupied Belgium. Spitfire P9374 goes down near Calais during bomber escort. Pilot bails, captured. Aircraft crashes in marshy ground, mostly intact. Luftwaffe technical intelligence swarms the wreck. They drain the fuel tanks, run chemical analysis, test octane rating. Their instruments read 100. Stunned silence. The German chemists retest. Same result. Intelligence officers scramble to report findings. RAF fighters aren't using 87 octane, they're using something dramatically better. Worse news follows. Captured fuel samples go to Messerschmitt engineers. Can the Bf 109 use it? Answer, no. The DB601 engine's compression ratio and supercharger boost limitations prevent utilizing 100 octane's full potential without major redesign. Months of re-engineering required. New cylinder heads, modified superchargers, complete production line retooling. Germany doesn't have months, they have weeks before winter ends the campaign season. Luftwaffe Command issues tactical modifications. Avoid prolonged climbing engagements. Don't attempt to outrun Spitfires in level flight. Use altitude advantage and boom and zoom tactics exclusively. But tactical adjustments can't overcome strategic chemistry. German synthetic fuel plants accelerate C3 production, their 100 octane equivalent. But the Fischer-Tropsch process resists optimization. Coal-derived hydrocarbons simply don't form the branched molecules needed for high-octane performance.
By October 1940, limited C3 fuel reaches frontline units. Too little, too late. Meanwhile, Britain's fuel stockpiles grow. November 1940, 440,000 tons of 100-octane. Other grades, 257,000 tons. The ratio reverses from pre-war projections. Adolf Galland, commanding JG-26, famously responds to Goering's question about needed equipment, a squadron of Spitfires. Goering thinks he's being insolent. He's being honest. Some historians dispute this quote's authenticity, but the sentiment appears in multiple Luftwaffe after-action reports. Give us aircraft competitive with 100-octane-fueled British fighters, or adjust our strategic objectives. Hitler chooses option 3, postpone invasion indefinitely. Sea Lion cancelled. Luftwaffe redirects to night bombing. The day battle is lost. A 13-point octane difference made invasion impossible.
The Battle of Britain ends October 31st, 1940. Final count, 1,733 Luftwaffe aircraft destroyed, 915 RAF fighters lost. Britain survives. Historians credit radar, fighter command tactics, pilot bravery. All true. But Vladimir Kalachevsky, Sacconi Vacuum Oil Company, writes in 1943, a difference of only 13 points in octane number made possible the defeat of the Luftwaffe by the RAF in the fall of 1940. Slight as it seems, sufficient to give the vital edge in altitude, rate of climb, maneuverability that spells the difference between defeat and victory. Air Chief Marshal Tedder agrees. 3 factors contributed to British aerial victory: pilot skill and bravery, the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, and the availability of suitable fuel. The fuel story doesn't end there. By 1944, Britain and America field 115 145-octane fuel, then 100-150 grade, nicknamed Basta, for intercepting V-1 flying bombs. Using xylidine additives, boost pressure reaches plus 25 pounds. Spitfire speeds at sea level jump to 362 miles per hour. Post-war, the chemistry behind high-octane fuel revolutionizes commercial aviation. Catalytic cracking becomes industry standard. Eugene Houdry, the race car enthusiast who never intended to change history, receives the Perkin Medal in 1959. Modern aviation fuel? Still refined using principles Houdry developed. The Merlin engine's descendants power vintage aircraft worldwide. RAF Battle of Britain Memorial Flight operates Spitfires and Hurricanes today. They use modern 100 LL fuel, low lead, similar octane rating. The twist? Environmental regulations now target leaded aviation fuel for elimination. The chemistry that saved Britain in 1940 faces phase-out by 2030. History's irony completes the circle. The invisible advantage, the secret no parade celebrated, now battles environmental necessity. But September 1940's lesson remains. Warfare isn't just weapons and bravery. It's logistics, chemistry, industrial capacity. A French engineer in Pennsylvania changed the course of World War II with molecular rearrangement. Every event, number, and name in this documentary has been verified through historical and documented sources.